So anyway, my status, I'm sorry, Matt, you had a question?
Go ahead, we'll cover it.
Well, I had gotten to a point of needing to rewire my, well, I didn't need to, but I chose to. I have, where is it? Come on. Where did you go, you dog? Well, I'll just close that for a second. This is a board I'm using. It is this, it's very similar to this. This one is white, but the pin layout was there, so that's what I was using. I also had put this stuff out on GitHub, or my code and whatnot on GitHub as well. But where I'm at the moment is I'm trying to get my radio control device resoldered and 3D printed. So I have this is the bottom part of the 3D printed carrier, and what will go in that is a circuit board with the board on top of it, and all wired together. I had to, well, I chose to rewire it because I was struggling with one of the pins that was going to be used for the E-stop. So my wiring at the moment is going to be such that I've got a dead man switch, space for throttle and steering, a reset switch, and an LED light, a voltage monitor. And what's not showing on there is I was going to throw in a temperature, a BM 280 temperature thing as well. So that'll be on a couple of more pins. So my status at the moment is I'm in the process of, I had one version of this working. Just trying to see if I can find anything that looks like a picture that's worth looking at. That was using glue and paper, glue and what is that stuff called? Foam core. And I've progressed to a couple of iterations of what that looks like. Trying to see, that says, yeah, that doesn't show the batteries mounted. Oh, the radio control has batteries in it too, lipo battery or lithium batteries. Anyway, those are just places where I've got notes stored. So my rudimentary status is finishing up my soldering on my board and making version 3 of the radio control unit with E-stop and LoRa all in and LED status lights all in one. And I'm trying to learn Fritzing, which is another, yet one more thing. You remember I used to always talk about there's so much to learn. Now I'm like thinking if I learned Fritzing, can I instead of doing all of this hand soldering, can I send the board off to maker to have it made. So that's yet one more thing.
What's on the other side? Is that box, does that go on the robot, or is that handheld?
This would be the handheld radio control. So no, it doesn't go on the robot. It's what, instead of having a joystick, the inexpensive joystick and another key fob for e-stop, and only it was to redo the remote control.
Okay, yep. And then you have another one of these on the robot side to listen to everything.
Yeah, that's to put that on. So you could, back to, you remember Jeff has the without ROS, completely manual. Was trying to get closer to his implementation of having a remote control that can work independent of ROS, and having an e-stop, having greater than 60 feet distance to be able to turn it off by using LoRa. So it was basically to step up the whole communication and control thing.
Looks great. I like how you have the display.
It can be useful. What we brainstormed would be on the display would be heading and speed of the tractor, right? So it would be able to give you a little bit of information, like heading and speed of the tractor, and maybe the battery status of the remote control. And the LEDs are programmed to show signal strength of the LoRa signal. So the LED would change color based on the signal strength, which I think is a nice feature too. Anyway, so a lot in that little remote control.
Yeah.
But it's all good fun. And Fritzing, my experience with Fritzing, let's see if I have something up here to show you. So that's not the one, but this is just one that I was copying. I was doing it sort of all the wrong way. That's not the one. It's fairly straightforward once you get down to it, but I wasn't doing it, as you can guess, the correct way. I was running wires directly. Instead of having like some sort of, what do they call it? Power bar or power, all these wires were getting in the way. And so then when you went to try to do the schematic, it couldn't really find a path. So you got to divide up the headers in order for it to define a path. So it's a learning process of using Fritzing. So I'm on about my 4th iteration of how to do that, and was using this guy's example of who knew you could pull the pins off of the breadboard and wire them up off the breadboard and it'll still not screw up the PCB. Which is what I think I'm going to do the next time I spend time on it. So yeah, one more thing. Another squirrel. That's it for me.
So apparently Fritzing will let you lay out a printed circuit board, and then is there enough information on how to send that to somebody and get that made? I assume Fritzing was just for making those cute little pictures. I didn't realize that it went beyond that.
So here's what I think I know, and caveat it greatly. Once you let me get back into the share here. You start with your perf board layout. And then there is auto route, and it will try to come up with the right route for you. And then once you have a route that you're happy with, you can either save the Gerber file and they will process it for you. See this fabricate button down here? And they give you the price. Or you can take that Gerber file and send it to PCBWay or one of other alternatives. I have never done it. That's why I say that's what I think I know. But I thought it was worth spending a little time on to learn. It also gives you the schematic. You start with the perf board and then it gives you these things, and then you can move these things around. Obviously, it doesn't look like he moved anything around on these, but it will produce this with the auto route, or you can adjust these to your liking. It's pretty cool. And as I showed, I started with that. How do I have an Arduino board and an LED and a resistor, and then I found this board that has a similar physical layout, but it doesn't have the exact pin configuration, and the high-tech lower board, I can't find the exact one in there. So that's a whole nother process if you want to have another board made to go in there.
Well, that particular board is kind of inconvenient that it doesn't fit on a breadboard and leave you room to plug in the wires. If it was 1/10 of an inch narrower, you could do that. So
Yeah.
you might be able to put two breadboards side by side and then straddle across the power and get that to work. If you really wanted to do that. Is your board the same size as that, or is your board slightly smaller than that?
I think the one that I did find, back to this one. No, that's not the right one. I think my board is slightly smaller than, I think this one is physically the same size. And so it was in the library. It's different than the other one that I had on the other screen. But the pins are slightly different. So like this pin that I have all showing red wires for voltage is not a voltage pin on that particular, started up Fusion 360 by mistake. close that. So there's something in there that I can use to model after. So anyway, Fritzing is more stuff to learn. And it does, once I got over the fear of it, it does seem to be reasonably easy to work with. So that's it for me.
On the printed circuit boards, I've used Eagle, and I can go from, you know, just an idea to a layout and then send it to China and get boards back. And if you order stuff from China these days, I don't know about right today, but with all the stuff that's going on in the world, but that is down to the point you get like a board, you get like 10 boards for $10 or some ridiculously cheap price for these things. So, and I haven't done it for years, so I don't know. And then a lot of people use the Linux printed circuit board layout programs is another way to go on that. And
You
you know,
remember how you created your Gerber file?
it's just part of Eagle does all that. So you just lay up, you do a schematic, then you do your layout, and then you click on some buttons and say create the files, and it gives you like, you know, 10 different files, and you put them in email and send them off, and then in 2 or 3 weeks the boards show up in your mailbox.
Easy peasy. And then you think, oh, I forgot a wire.
Usually what happens is you get it back, say, oh, the parts don't fit on the board, or these are too close together, or I've got something it's hard to solder things because something's in the way. But it is a learning process. And back when boards were expensive, you know, that first board that you make, you put the whole thing together, you spend weeks on it, and before you mail it off, you have everybody look at it, say, well, is this going to work? Because I don't want to spend, you know, $50 to $100 to get a board and then find out that it's wrong. So, you know, that first one is really, really agonizing to do that. But once you get once you get it all figured out and figure out the process, it doesn't work out too bad. And now the boards are so cheap, it doesn't really matter anyway. You can just throw them away.
Well, I'll keep doing the physical soldering for now, and try to putz with Fritzing a little bit too. So yeah, that's what's going on. One of the issues that I had, I'll just share with you real quick, is yeah, it's not going to focus, is it? Yeah, see those 2 openings there? The reason there's 2 openings there is because I've got this push button. I don't really know how to mount it. So I was just going to end up holding it. I'm going to kill the background thing. That's maybe giving me problems. Gonna mount it like that and then just glue it on, because the back has a, you know, a big flat surface there, and run the wires through the opening. So it was a little bit annoying to try to figure out how to mount the push button on the outside to be the dead man switch, which is what that would end up being. I never thought that putting a push button on would be a pain in the, you know what. Anyway, what's going on in your world, Jeff?
Let's see, not a whole lot, I guess. As I say, I've been trying to clean everything out so I can get rid of all the crap that I've collected for the last 40 or 50 years. And other than that, was it last night or the night before? It got to be, oh, it was Tuesday night. It was after the homebrew robotics meeting, and that ended somewhere around, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And for some reason, I was sitting in front of my computer and I started looking up parts for go-karts, because on my thing back here, I've got some go-kart front end parts that I bought on eBay and welded up the frame and put all that stuff together. And I keep thinking, if I had something slightly smaller than that, if I redo it, I could make something, take lessons learned and make something that works a little better. So I spent hours and hours digging through eBay and Amazon looking for parts. And the first one was I couldn't find those original parts that I bought that were like $50 that I paid for it. Let me just quickly see if I can pull this up here. Do that. Share screen. Yeah, I can never remember if this stuff's in the way, but I'll move it. So anyway, this is the original parts that I had. You just buy this and weld. You just weld this part onto your frame and then you assemble it, and that's how the front end worked on my little mini tractor there. And when I first started a search, I couldn't find these and thought, oh, the stuff seems to come and go over time. And then I did some more searching, and then this one turned up. I assume you can see my screen. I should have asked that.
Alloy spindle bracket.
So here's a new one that somebody's made. So it doesn't have the big giant bolt through it, but there's absolutely no dimensions on this other than they're saying something about this shaft is 4.5 inches long and 5/8 inch diameter. So you can put a wheel that's 5/8 inches onto there. And they didn't give me any dimensions, but they, just looking at it, it's nice and cute and nice and seems well built. So I assumed it was smaller, but the more I look at it, I don't think it is. I think it's about the same size as what I had. But the advantage is it doesn't have that big bolt through there. And the ones I had were kind of sloppy. So this might take care of that problem if you were to track these down. And this, I think, is like, that says $43.50 for a pair of those. Whereas the first one, I think these were $50. Yeah, they're around $50, and you'd have to check to see if you get free shipping on it or whatever. But so this is what I already had, and I was thinking about moving to this one. And then the more I did some digging, it turns out you can buy a complete front end.
Wow.
And let's see, how do I get that up there? Which picture did I want here? Well, maybe that's the picture I want. So anyway, here it is. Here's the pieces assembled. So basically, on the vehicle itself, you just have to put some brackets to bolt these onto the vehicle, and then a wheel goes here and a wheel goes out there. So I spent hours trying to figure out, if I put two of these side by side, how wide would that be? So how wide is it from the center of this wheel to the center of this wheel? And nobody will give you any, being typical Amazon sellers, they won't tell you anything. But I could get pictures like this saying, here's one of the two A-frame assemblies, and they show me dimensions here that goes from showing a line that's kind of arbitrarily, well, is it to the end of this thing, or is it to the bolt on the thing? And same with this end, and it's also not a straight line out, so it's kind of at an angle. So these are pretty much worthless. But I did some more digging and found somebody else selling the same thing, and they actually showed, they said, here's a center line from this bolt, a center line from this bolt, and they told me how far apart those were. So I took that, and then I was trying to also, the pictures I was showing right here. So this is basically the parts that you get. And let's do this. So that's the parts that come. You have to assemble those into a complete unit. And I think this one says 109, but you have to pay $20 shipping on it. But just in general, people are selling these for an average of like $123, probably with free shipping. So you could do that, but I want to figure out how wide is this going to be by the time it's done. So then here's some other stuff. I noticed Windows, I don't know if it's my Windows or my browser, it seems to have to reload the page every time I switch tabs. I don't know why it's doing that. So that's why it takes so long when I switch here. So anyway, here's from somebody else. This might actually be the same company again. And there again, it's just the assembled unit. So let's see, I think I had one here that was so that's the same dimension, same crappy dimensions there, same crappy dimensions there. But if you look, you can find, say, on, so the spindle assembly here, I thought, well, if I can find that, because you can buy all these pieces separately too if you look hard enough. So I went here, and this one is, see, it's trying to reload the page again. So here's just the spindle assembly, and they want, stop it, they want $40 plus free shipping, $40 for free shipping for just the spindles. And if you look here, they actually show you some dimensions on it. And at first glance, you think, boy, that's lots of dimensions, but they don't show you from, they don't give me the total length from either the center of this bolt or the outside of this round part out to the end out here. Somewhere it says it's 4.5 inches long, so I probably could have used that. But it's just those kind of things. I try to piece all this stuff together, and finally, after much time, kill this for a second. How do I do that? I go like that. So basically, I went through and wrote down all the different dimensions I could find from multiple postings. And I decided that from the center of this bolt here, can you see my cursor? There's a hand on there.
I can't see your cursor.
Okay, well, I should have expected that. Anyway, from this bolt right there out to the end of this shaft, or no, I figure right here, looking at the pictures, this vertical line here is basically where the center of the wheel would be mounted. So from there, going back this way, so it's like 3 inches from there back to the center of the bolt. And then I couldn't tell, here's what bolts onto the frame, bolts onto the A-arms, and I didn't have any dimensions, so I guess that is probably about 1 inch between there. So they give me 4 inches there. So I added all the stuff up, and then I decided, well, if you mounted them, I can actually leave them 2 inches apart in the middle. When I added everything up, I came out to the fact that it looks like it's gonna be 25 inches center to center. And it turns out that's wider than what I'd prefer. I'd like to get something, I think my current one's like 18 inches center to center. It'd be nice to get something smaller than that. So after hours and hours, I finally decided, well, if I just buy that and assemble it, it's probably too big. It's bigger than what I have now, even though it's really cute. Let's see, back to screen one. Okay, so anyway, it's got all these dimensions, and see, here's the thing I was just talking about, from the center of this bolt out to where it bolts on out here. It turns out they don't give you any dimensions for that. Likewise, they don't give you the dimension of this piece. Although if you take these numbers and add them up and subtract it from 4.5, that would probably be that number. So the point was, when I got all done, I decided that's probably not what I wanted. And then here's yet another one. This one is, let's see, which picture do I want? I'll go with this one. And can I zoom? I can't zoom in. Anyway, this is a different one that's like that first one I started with, but mine was, I think the dimension on mine is 3 inches across here. This one says it's 2 inches. So this is like 2/3 the size of what I had. So this would be better. But now when I go look at it, it turns out up here, the shaft is 17 millimeters, and I prefer to have 5/8 inch because that's a standard size that, the American stuff comes in 5/8 inch. And I think I could probably go out on Amazon or eBay and buy bearings that will fit my wheels and then have a 17 millimeter hole in them. So I could do that. So theoretically, I could get these and weld on. And so again, I just spent hours, and it was like 4 a.m. when I quit looking at this stuff, and it just kept annoying me the whole time. So what else do I have here? This was, we'll see what this does, see if this restarts the video. So that's another annoying thing I see on this computer. When I click on this video, it always restarts it at 0 when I switch tabs, and that I find that annoying. So this is the guy from G.O.A.T Industries that was talking about his, he ordered this on I think he said he got it on eBay, and it's just a pre-made little electric quad motorcycle. It's got an electric motor in the back with just a simple chain drive, and in the front it's got a suspension like, kind of like what we're just looking at. And if you go through these videos and look at them, let's see, how quickly could I pull that up? index to, well, I'll do it this way. It's going to show the whole playlist, but that's close enough for the moment. So I'll just come out here and say, well, we'll see what that does. So anyway, you can go watch those later. He gives a pretty good description of going through this whole thing and showing what's there and whether or not it's going to work. And then later on, he gets to the point where he actually has it built into, yeah, you might have to go back to his web page to track it down. What was I doing here? Oh, so anyway, if you just go through here, and he just goes through and gives you a tour of the whole thing. So he's showing you, here's the front end, and it's just got a single swing arm and a shock absorber to do the front end. So it's like the old original Volkswagens, where that's the way the suspension worked on those. So as your wheel goes up and down, the tire turns in and out because it's just following a, I don't have a convenient curve here. So anyway, the whole first video, we just go through and say he bought this, and he's showing you all the pieces and showing you the electric motor on it. And then the second video, he's putting a linear actuator on to get the steering to work. And then he's also got, associated with those, he's got a on Hackaday.io, he's got a write-up on all this stuff. So he's got some pretty good documentation on all this stuff. And he says down here, here's the thing that he bought was a Renegade LT100E electric 36-volt quad bike. So if you go look that up on out in the real world, so here is that same thing we're just looking at, and it's about $650. And depending where you look at it, you can get it for different prices or whatever. And let's see, again, this is one of those cases where it's got really, they have lots of pictures, but they don't really show you anything. Come on. Well, it didn't really help. Anyway, it shows enough here that this is the exact one that he has. So he goes through and explains this whole thing, and you can just buy this off the shelf. And he was complaining on it in his video that the front shock absorbers are too stiff. You probably have to replace those. And he was complaining that it didn't have enough power. So he put yet a different electric motor on his, which to me, that's starting to get pretty expensive by the time you bought it for anywhere from $500 to $1,000, and you start replacing the motor on it. That's going to get quite expensive. So anyway, that was some stuff I had pulled up here that I was looking at. And I think our last meeting, I think I put the links to his videos and stuff. So that's kind of what's going on there. And this is the guy that's in, he's either in England or in Wales, because he knows Jonathan, the guy that built the hydraulic tractor from scratch. And if you go look through this guy's website on his YouTube page, he's got an interview with Jonathan where he's talking about showing his little hydraulic tractor. And so that's what I've been doing the last few days. I wasted a lot of time doing that, and it really comes back to the point. I don't really want to build anything new at this point. It's just that I was just looking to see what parts are available, and I might be better off just grabbing, if I want something smaller, grab a radio controlled car. I got a bunch of those in my closet that I need to get rid of. So I need to look at them and say, can I save any parts on here, or should I just take them all to the thrift store and dump them all? So that's another option on that. Another thing we were talking about on the last Twin City Robotics meeting, a guy was saying, well, he wants to build a little vehicle, a 4-wheel vehicle, and he wants to know where can he get a differential for the back? And I said, well, I use that mobility scooter transaxle, which worked really well. And then I said, or you can get them off the small riding lawnmowers. You can get something like that. Or I was thinking maybe the self-propelled push mowers, they've got it where it turns 2 of the wheels. I thought those might have a small differential, but I looked on YouTube and it turns out, no, those just have a solid axle. So it just, both wheels are turning at the same time, which is not solving all the problems. Then the concept came up, well, what if you put, a separate motor on each back wheel? So you have 2 motors, instead of having a differential, you just have 2 motors on there. And he said, well, you could get separate power drivers. And I remember back in ROS Agriculture, this came up, and Sohan Shah said, well, you could put separate motors and buy these really expensive motor controllers, and you could actually calculate the speed of the 2 back wheels. And I said, no, forget all that crap. Just put the motors on there, and you hook them in parallel or hook them in series, and they will just automatically work out the amount of power it takes to make the thing run. So that had come up, and he seemed to think that might be a good idea to try that. I don't know if he's ambitious enough to try it, but if he is, then we might learn from that how well that's going to work. And every once in a while I think about, how could I experiment with that? And this is my little, let's see, I'm still sharing screen, aren't I? Get rid of that, stop sharing. And then back to that. I don't know if this is going to change on the thing, but I'll change it to speaker view. So there's that little robot that I built, the little Raspberry Pi robot that I built a long time ago. And it simply has two DC motors from Pololu. And so it's a DC motor with some kind of a gear reduction box built in with a wheel right on the end of that. And it's also got on the back of the motors here, there's some kind of encoder built into it. So theoretically, I could experiment and try it on this and say, if I just wire these two motors in series or wire them in parallel, then theoretically, when you give it power, well, I thought I'd get the other motor to turn, but I can't, because each one of these motors is currently going to its own, there's little driver boards in here on, there's one here and one here for each motor. But if you just wire them across and turn one, then you're going to see the other one's going to turn at the same time. So that'd be a quick way to test that and see how well it's going to work out. The fact that it's got encoders built right into the motors, then I don't have to add encoders to the shaft like I did on this one. So on the back here, it's got a quadrature encoder on each wheel on the back, and it's got a differential in it. And that way I can get fairly good wheel odometry off that. So I forgot why I went down that path, other than the fact that that's something that we were talking about at the last meeting and the last TC robot meeting. And that's something else to consider, that maybe instead of trying to find a smaller differential, because right now I'm pretty much limited on the size of this vehicle. That's just simply how wide the back end was, because it was a mobility scooter. And I stuck the wheels on there, and that defined the thing. It's around 18 inches wide. And then when I built the front end, I just simply measured everything and made the front end about the same distance at the back and welded it all together. So that's what really set the size of this whole thing, partially because of the size of the wheels and tires too. So again, I forgot why I went down this path, but I guess just the fact that I was thinking about, if I did build something new, I'd like it to be slightly smaller and slightly lighter weight, because this thing at this point, it's heavy enough now. It's real hard to just pick it up and throw it in the back of my car. I can still do it, but I really shouldn't, because it's getting too damn heavy. And so that's just another situation of, to make it transportable and to get it to fit through doors, try to keep it small enough that will work. And secondly, but it's got to be big enough you can get all the sensors and stuff suck on. So here I got one on the front, that big blue LiDAR laser scanner that people used to use, and it weighs like 10 pounds itself, and it's quite large. Whereas you can get the little tiny ones now that, looking at my table, something about the same size. You get one about the size of my fist. You can get ones that size. They're lightweight now. So that was just more thinking along, into the future. If I ever want to change anything, I keep thinking about, how would I go about doing that. So that I think the original question was, if this is like the comedy shows where somebody will get this big elaborate thing and says, well, no, the question was, how do you like the weather today? So that, it's kind of the same thing there. So this is kind of what I've been up to. So I don't really have anything other than anything else that I've been doing, but I will ask the question to Matt. Do you realize we have a Slack channel, and do you have any interest in that?
Sure. Yeah, I didn't know.
Okay, so the easiest way is if you I'll just post my email to the channel here, and just send me an email from whatever email you want to use. Then we can just send you an invite on that. That seems to be the easiest way to do that, because you can't leave a standing invite that I've seen. So the easiest way, like on a ROS what do you call it, discourse, I just said, if anybody wants in, send me an email and I'll send you an invite. So that will take care of that. And the other thing, if you haven't been keeping up on Slack, they said, oh, on the free version, we're going to make it much better now. We're going to instead of letting you have 10,000 messages and 5 gigabytes of storage, now it's going to be to your advantage. You can only save 90 days worth of messages now. And it's going to be wonderful for everybody. And they said, well, so you can only see 90 days of message. We're going to open up to all these worthless applications that nobody uses. So it's just going to be great. So anyway, that's going to happen maybe today. I think they said starting September 1st. I haven't checked to see if they throw our messages out or not. So I see I've put that off long enough. I probably won't have to worry about it now, trying to archive all the old stuff. So anyway, so as far as this group, we do have that Slack channel, and then we've got the YouTube channel where we archive these messages each week. And I've been pretty good about indexing these as we go. So if you go look at that index that I posted, you can go back and look to see what we're talking about. And rather than having to watch all of them, you could look through the index and see if there's anything interesting on that particular video to see if it's something you want to watch or not. Or if you got nothing better to do, you can just sit and watch all the videos. Just start at the oldest ones and work your way forward and see what's going on there.
I wouldn't wish that upon anyone.
But having to watch them all or having to index it?
Both, man. But indexing would be worse. You got to pay attention.
Yeah, there you have to do it because you have to be part of the meeting. They have to go back and watch the whole thing, and then you have to post it all. And so it is a lot of work. But it seems like otherwise the videos just simply say meeting on this date, and so it doesn't say anything about what's in it. And I personally don't want to go to somebody's website that's got say 100 videos and have to go through and watch them to see if they're worth watching in the first place. So I think it's advantageous to do that.
I agree.
And when we first started out, we had random people on these meetings because Bob, the guy from here in Minneapolis, was on the meetings, and Doug from here in Minneapolis was on the meetings, and Juan from Argentina was on, and he got distracted somewhere along the line. So just for the last 6 months or so, it's been Al and I do this once a week and talk about whatever projects we're working on. So that's kind of how things have been going.
And Jeff tries to not complain about how slow I am too much. So that's always nice.
Here, we'll see if this works. Well, that's an easy email. So let me copy your email here. And I've also noticed that people send me a request for an invite. Where's my stuff here? Oh, I had to close that. It kept telling me my resources were low and my audio wasn't working, so I closed my Slack. So let me try to open that back up. But I will send out an invite to people, and then they never respond. So I don't know if what the deal is with that, because we've picked up various peoples from the old original ROS agriculture group. What do we have now? I think we have like 22 people or something. Let's see. How do you do invites? More. People in groups, files, apps. I don't remember how to do this anymore. Mentions, reactions, saved. Add channels, direct messages. Oh, here, let's do. I see I'm wasting a lot of time here, but let's see. Am I still sharing my screen?
No.
I hope I'm not. That's good. And a meeting or two ago, I've learned how to edit my videos because Al had posted something that was some kind of legal information that stayed on the screen for like 5 minutes. So okay, here I'm getting closer here. View all people. Add people. No, it's add people at random. Isn't there just an invite button somewhere?
I will go look. I'm not sure.
Slack channel.
You guys haven't moved over to Discord or Twitch?
No,
What
we
about
have,
Discord and Twitch?
Isn't that what all the kids are using now?
Discord certainly is. I haven't heard about Twitch.
okay. I found the invite button, so let me.
So Jeff, you have to switch you to Discord?
I'm not really
Okay.
interested in switching on anything, but you know, since Slack is taking features away and making things hard. Let's see, let anyone blah blah blah. Let anyone with.
You gotta chop these videos up into like 15-second segments and put them out on Twitch.
Hmm.
That's all our attention span is now. 30 seconds, 20 seconds.
That's sad.
Yeah, I've noticed YouTube has those shorts now, and I'm thinking, what's the point of this crap? So, but once I watch the first one, I'll watch the next one. I'll watch about 20 of them. And think that was a waste of time.
That's the purpose, Jeff.
Yeah. So anyway, I sent you an invite. I don't know what happens next. I think you have to find it in your email, then click on it, and it'll add you. So, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens here.
Awesome.
And how come my thing's not working now? Oh, I hate computers. So I've got people display, but I can't scroll. Why? Oh, there we go. Okay, so la 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 la. And it doesn't, you don't show up on the list yet. Usually it says, it'll show up and say it's an invited person, but I don't know. I never know. Reload the page, search. And they keep changing the way the stuff works too, so that makes it harder and harder. Oh, it's even got your picture that shows up. You show up as an invited member now under the list. So once you get that email and you say join or whatever, it should let you in. And if let's see, how can I go back and find out if they've thrown all our messages away? Let's go back to the random. Come on. Go back to the random channel. I'll go back to general because general goes back to like 2018 or something. So it could be you can't dig back through everything because if they threw all our information out, then it's not going to be there anymore. Try that to search channel. General. So it still says January 23rd, 2018 is the first message in here. No, it's I had two pinned messages, or maybe it's the first message. So it says join blah blah blah. But it goes from 2018 to 2021. So I think they've thrown away all of our old stuff now. And the other thing was, where's that echo coming from? So anyway, when I noticed they were going to throw out our old messages, I went through and tried to do the backup, and I was able to do that. I was able to back up everything. Well, actually, I was able to back up all the messages, and inside the messages, there are links to images. So if you cut and paste that and put it in a browser, you can pull up the old images. I'll have to go see if they threw those away or not. But like the first time that you did a backup on ROS Agriculture, and then I think it was Doug that converted that into something readable. Well, all the threads were missing. And it turns out that the way Slack works, again, in their infinite wisdom, they stored the threads out on a different web page, and they don't, when you do the backup, they don't give you that. So there's somewhat of an issue there that, you know, I backed up everything, but we probably won't get the threads. So I figured it was better than nothing, and that's kind of where we're at right now on that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on this and see if anybody even notices that all the old stuff's gone. So I think that's all I had to say at the moment, I guess.
Matt, anything to chime in on that you want recorded?
No, go robots.
I think we usually stop the recording and then talk for another half an hour about whatever, so people that don't join live miss out on all this stuff, miss out on the half hour before we start, a half hour at the end.
It's the
So-
after show.
Yeah, we could do the after show. So any final comments or should I stop it?
You can stop.